There was a time when the name Ubisoft carried weight. Ubisoft once stood as a titan of innovation and creativity in gaming. It was a studio that gamers looked at with excitement. But now, the name draws eye rolls, sighs, memes about bugs, bloat, and so many broken promises. How did it come to this? How did one of the most beloved studios in gaming turn into a cautionary tale of corporate missteps, formula fatigue, and broken trust? Let's take a deep dive into the rise and fall of Ubisoft and how they destroyed their own reputation whilst still making a lot of money. Now, to understand Ubisoft's fall, we have to rewind to its golden era. Between the early 2000s and mid-2010s, Ubisoft was once synonymous with risk-taking. In 2003, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time wowed players with its acrobatics and time rewind mechanics. It was elegant, fun, and original. Then came Assassin's Creed in 2007, which didn't just launch a franchise, it redefined open-world stealth gameplay, climbing historical cities, exploring conspiracy-laden stories, and experimenting with parkour traversal. Felt very new and bold at the time. Then you have the Far Cry series, particularly Far Cry 3 in 2012, delivered vibrant open worlds and memorable villains. Meanwhile, franchises like Rayman, Splinter Cell, Watch Dogs all showcased Ubisoft's range, from whimsical platforming to tactical stealth. This whole era was marked by creativity and polish. Ubisoft wasn't just chasing trends, it was setting them. But somewhere along the way, the cracks began to show. Ubisoft found a formula, and they stuck to it. They stuck to it hard. By the late 2010s, nearly every Ubisoft title started to feel very similar. Towers to climb, maps overloaded with icons, skill trees, crafting, enemy outposts, and endless collectibles. What once felt like innovation had become routine. Games like Assassin's Creed Unity, Watch Dogs, and Ghost Recon Wildlands were mechanically sound, but they all seemed to lack a soul. They felt bloated. They felt familiar. And again, they increasingly started to feel like checkbox simulators rather than organic experiences. Worse yet, these games started to launch with performance issues. Breakpoint, for example, was universally panned for being broken and uninspired. Ubisoft was no longer leading. It was now recycling. This formulaic design wasn't lazy. It was disrespectful. And again, it showed players that the studio began to prioritize quantity over quality, size over substance. And this is where everything became formulaic. Ubisoft didn't just copy its own design. It began chasing the most profitable trends in gaming. Live services, microtransactions, and always online requirements. Rather than refining its core experiences, Ubisoft started turning its franchises into platforms. Games like The Division, For Honor, Rainbow Six Siege, all while being very successful, they all started to lean heavily into live service models. Again, Siege, probably the most successful one, managed to do well and stand the test of time. But a lot of the other titles that were being released started to feel half-baked. They started relying on post-release patches to fix what should have been addressed before shipping the games out. Even single-player games, they were loaded with XP boosters, gear packs, cosmetic DLC. Ubisoft always argues that it's optional, but it often feels like the games were deliberately slowed down to nudge players towards these purchases. And again, gamers weren't stupid. They saw the manipulation. This monetization first mindset erodes trust. And again, it sends a clear message. Ubisoft wasn't building games for players anymore. It was building systems to get money from the players. As the years passed, Ubisoft once proud franchise began to all feel stale. Assassin's Creed lost its identity, morphing into a generic stealth action game. Far Cry became a parody of itself, reusing the same charismatic villain in an exotic location formula over and over and over again. Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, and Prince of Persia were all either abandoned or stripped of what made them special. Instead of evolving these franchises meaningfully, Ubisoft played it safe. Each game felt like a reskin of the last, with slightly different settings, but the same mechanics in the underbelly. When Immortals Phoenix Rising launched in 2020, it was widely seen as Breath of the Wild, but more corporate. Despite some charm, it failed to feel original. Again, Ubisoft had forgotten how to take risks. And when they did announce new games like X-Defiant or Skull and Bones, they all felt like soulless attempts to chase trends, rather than craft meaningful experiences. The Ubisoft magic, it was gone. Now in 2020, Ubisoft faced one of its biggest PR disasters yet. One that had nothing to do with game design, and something that I covered on this channel as well in one of my previous Ubisoft videos. I will list that in the description below. A wave of allegations surfaced revealing a toxic workplace culture within Ubisoft. Accusations of harassment, abuse, and systemic misconduct at multiple studios rocked the company. Top executives were implicated. While Ubisoft claimed to take action, many critics and former employees said the changes were surface level at best. CEO Yves Guillemot promised reform, but years later, many say the culture remains unchanged. This wasn't just a PR hit, it was moral failure. Gamers and developers alike began questioning whether they wanted to support a company that couldn't or wouldn't protect its own people. Again, the damage was deep. Ubisoft's image, already fraying, now had a moral stain that couldn't be patched out. And again, as Ubisoft hadn't learned from its mistakes, in 2021, it announced Quartz, an NFT platform for in-game items. The backlash was instant and brutal. Because of course, why, and excuse my language, why the fuck would you launch an NFT platform for in-game items, knowing that it's just another way to try and cash in and get players to buy imaginary things that they're not actually going to gain from? Again, gamers mocked the concept. Critics lambasted the environmental costs and ethical implications. Even Ubisoft's own developers questioned the move. But Ubisoft doubled down, insisting that NFTs were, in air quotes, the future of gaming. Again, it was a textbook example of corporate disconnect. Ubisoft chasing blockchain buzzwords while failing to fix the issue players actually cared about. The company had become deaf to its community. Instead of listening to feedback, Ubisoft seemed to be chasing whatever trend could please investors, even if it alienated players in the process. Now, in recent years, Ubisoft has quietly cancelled numerous projects, whether it's Splinter Cell VR, Ghost Recon Frontline, and multiple unannounced titles. Its once-packed release schedule has thinned out dramatically. Promised games like Beyond Good and Evil 2 remain in development hell. Skull and Bones has been delayed countless times, eventually releasing, but just becoming a running joke. What's left is a company with no clear vision. Instead of leading, Ubisoft is reacting, frantically trying to regain relevance while shedding staff and delaying games. Internal reports suggest a company in crisis, demoralized teams, outdated leadership, and a desperate need for reinvention. The giant that once shaped the industry is now struggling to stay afloat. Now, Ubisoft didn't fall because of one bad game or a single scandal. It fell because of 1,000 small decisions, each prioritizing short-term profit over long-term trust. Each signaling to players that their loyalty didn't matter, that creativity didn't matter, that the bottom line was all that mattered. From recycled formulas to predatory monetization, from broken launches to internal dysfunction, Ubisoft slowly burned all the goodwill it had spent decades building. Now, can they recover? Possibly, There are still talented people at Ubisoft. There's still history, legacy, and potential. They are still releasing good games. Even this year, I enjoyed Assassin's Creed Shadows. But again, to rise again, Ubisoft has to do more than release just the same old games again. It has to earn back trust with transparency, originality, and respect for both its players and employees. Because in gaming, reputation isn't given, it's earned. One good game at a time. Thank you again for watching. If you found this interesting, consider liking the video and subbing. I intend to continue doing a few more of these deep dives. Do you think there's hope for Ubisoft, or have they fallen too far? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Peace out.
Screw it.
Right there.
Shit.
Imagine having to put down your own brother.
Oh my god.
Oh. Died last time. Come on, let's go. Woo. Let's go. It's those father-son moments again. Oh, but now Freya's here as well.
That if you just build great games, everything would turn around.
And then the great games point is the one that I wanted to argue against heavily, because what is the point of your console if it's not for games? Like, what is the point of having a console if you're just going to do Game Pass and cloud gaming? Like,